Otaku Fujoshi Anime Curious. My name is RandomSama613 and welcome to Anime Opinions. As you can probably tell, I got some new equipment and I'm trying some stuff out, so let's see how this goes. But also, as you can probably tell, there's a review this week finally. It's only been a few months since my last one, so I'm finally going to get back to doing some reviews, at least for this week, because I know that next week there's going to be the end of the season and the new season's going to start up again, but I'm going to try and actually get some reviews out on something resembling a regular basis. So without further ado, let's get right into it. Today I'm going to review a series that I had recommended to me way back when Lou of Sitting by the Window Anime Reviews did his, I think it was his 100 subscriber live stream, and he was talking about series that people hadn't seen, and he mentioned this particular series. And that is Jyu-Oh-Sei, Planet of the Beast King. Now, Jyu-Oh-Sei is a 2006 anime done by Studio Bones. It's 13 episodes long. It is a sci-fi anime, very, very hard sci-fi, but I also think it has some fantastical elements to it, and it kind of has like a survival element to it as well, and that makes it really interesting. It takes place in a semi-far future. I think it's like 80 years or so from now. I think it's taking place late 2000s, early 2100s, give or take, if I recall correctly. Humanity has moved on to another solar system, and they've terraformed the planets there, and they're now living in that solar system. It primarily follows the character Thor and his brother Ray. They're twins, and they've been raised in the colony, and their mother and father are murdered by someone. They don't know exactly. And they're exiled to a planet called Planet Chimera. Planet Chimera is a prison planet that doesn't exist, according to most literature. It is an unknown prison planet. It's housed by the worst of the worst, and it's full of hostile carnivorous plants. The plants eat everything. So it's a very inhospitable place. It has a 180-day cycle of daytime, 180-day cycle of nighttime, so it's extremely harsh, it's extremely inhospitable, and it's just not a nice place. The structure of the planet is that it's ruled by 4 different rings of people. So they're divided by skin color. So there's the Blanc ring, the Sun ring, the Night ring, and the Ochre ring. All these are, like I said, divided by skin color. There's also a 5th faction called the Wildling Nest, which is where all of the people that don't fit into those 4 rings go. If they're outcasts, if they're younger or older, or if they get, or anything like that, they're sent to the Wildling Nest because they're not accepted into the rings, generally speaking. Women are considered extremely rare on the planet, and as such are highly, highly regarded. They get to choose their own mates, and that's a big section of the story as well, is that aspect of it. And of course, there's one more piece of government twist to this, and that is that anybody who can defeat the leaders of the 4 rings becomes the Beast King, and he becomes essentially the ruler of the planet and can do as he chooses, and can leave the planet through, there's a spire that he can leave the planet through. At least that's what the story is. One of the big aspects of this show is the characters, and there's quite a few. I'm only going to mention the primary characters that are really important, that need to be known. So first off, of course, there's Thor and Ray, the twins. Thor is the main character. He wants to be crowned the Beast King so that he can get off the planet and find out why he and his brother were exiled, why his parents were killed, what the deal is, and his primary motivation is revenge. He wants to get revenge on the people that wronged him, the people that killed his family, and that's his primary focus throughout the entire series. In this, he is aided by one of the primary people is Tiz. She is a Sun Ring female, and she encounters Thor early on in the series. I want to say it's episode 3 or so. She is saved by Thor. Thor manages to defeat some of these very, very hostile carnivorous plants and save her, and she decides that she's going to mate with him, that he is going to be the person that she is with to produce children. And they have a dynamic, of course, and it gets somewhat complicated, but that's the gist of it. Another really important character is Zaggy. He is the leader of the Wildling Nest. I don't want to say too much about him because it does enter spoiler territory. I'll just suffice it to say that he's an interesting character and that he is very important, and don't forget about him because he's not mentioned for a very long time. The final person on the list of important people to keep an eye on is Third. He is the 3rd of the Ochre Ring, and he's only known as Third for a good chunk of the series, and he's also very important. He seems kind of mild-mannered and unassuming, but he's also very scheming. He doesn't have aspirations to be anything other than the 3rd of the Ochre Ring. So It's very interesting, and he plays into the dynamic as well, and all the characters really help to drive the series. I wouldn't say that there's anything particularly special about the series other than the characters, because they drive the series so heavily. It's very, very character driven. They're very important. They're all fleshed out and interesting. Other characters I'm going to mention are, there's the top of the Sun Ring, that's top Chen, of the Sun Ring females rather, and then there's also the tops of all the other rings as well, and they're all fleshed out and interesting. So there's a lot of characters to keep track of, there's a lot to care about, and they're all very important. They actually matter. So that's another thing I really like about the series, is the characters actually matter. Moving on to the animation, I'd say that it looks very, very good. It's mid-2000s Bones, which is when they were in their prime. They've done a bunch of other series that have looked fantastic. They're in their prime, and it looks really, really good. I'd say that this is where things start to break down a little bit. The eyes for the characters are a little bit proportioned strangely to the rest of their bodies. This does change later in the series, but there's an obvious reason for that, which I'll go into in a little bit. But that's one of the things that kind of bothers me, is the eyes are kind of funny, so that's kind of nitpicky though. The action scenes look fantastic. They're really well choreographed, they're really smooth, and they look really good. And they were just really well drawn, and it's a joy to watch those, as most Bone series are. The backgrounds are varied, they look different, they look distinct. They go from forests to deserts to mountains to tundra, and they do it really, really smoothly and really well, and it looks natural, and it looks good. And that's another really big thing about the series, is that with all those backgrounds, it provides more context, and it makes things look varied. So it looks like people are in different places. And I really like that aspect of it as well. Moving on from the animation, the music, the OST is very, very good. I really like the opening. I think it's really well done. It really gets you kind of pumped up to watch the series and to watch the episode every single time. The ED for the series is also okay. I wouldn't say it's great. It didn't stand out a ton to me, so I'll just mention that it was still good. All of the music is good. I just don't really recall the ED all that clearly. All of the background music also fits really well. It helps to set the tone to the entire scene, and I think it's really well done overall. It's really well composed, so I think that's worth mentioning as well. And finally, I'm going to talk about the problems the series has, because it does have its problems. I definitely would not say this is a perfect series by any stretch of the imagination. It definitely has some major issues that are worth mentioning. I think the biggest thing is, as of about episode 6, they skip a lot of time. They do, I want to say it's like a 3 or 4 year time skip, and it's very jarring. They don't really ease into it. It's immediately after a fairly important fight, and they basically skip a ton of time because it's not as important, I guess, but it really is rather jarring, and I think it could have been done a little bit better and a little bit differently, but I definitely understand that it was necessary to advance the plot. Accompanying that, the ending felt really, really rushed, and I'd argue somewhat contrived. I won't be specific for obvious reasons, but it felt like the ending was kind of made up on the spot because they realized that they were running out of time. And as I mentioned, the time skip contributes to the problem of it feeling rushed. It feels like they didn't give it the time that it needed, and that is definitely a problem, and it really detracts from the series as a whole. I will say, however, that for the most part, all the plot points are handled. They're all dealt with from within the universe itself, and it's not like they don't resolve anything, because they resolve everything. It's just that it feels like they kind of rushed that, and I feel like they could have given it a few more episodes, because it was only 11 episodes, and I think if they given it a full 13, they would have had that extra 2 episodes, and it would have been a little bit more cohesive. But otherwise, it's a very good series. Overall, I do recommend watching Jyu-Oh-Sei, just because it's a fairly quick watch. I did enjoy watching all of it. I wouldn't say that it's the best sci-fi series I've ever seen, but it was definitely very good, and it showed had a really rich world, and I really enjoyed that in a series. But what do you guys think? Have you seen Planet of the Beast King? If you have, go ahead and leave a comment down below letting me know what you think about the series. If you like the video and or the new format, go ahead and throw me a like. That really helps me out. If you want to see more stuff like this, go ahead and also like the video, leave a comment. Let me know how you think this turned out. Go ahead and subscribe if you like content like this. I would like to say that I primarily do reviews, but it's turning into I primarily do first and final impressions from seasons. But I do reviews on a semi-regular basis. I do top 5 lists. I do a bunch of other stuff. So if you like this kind of thing, go ahead and subscribe. But until next time, I've been RandomSama613. This has been Anime Opinions. And until then, watch more anime.